scientific community has long kept silent? Is it lack of interest or fear of knowing? Of AIDS remain a mystery about which the scientific community has long kept silent. Is it lack of interest? Silent. Is it lack of interest? Silent. Of AIDS remain a mystery about which the scientific community has long kept silent. Is it lack of interest or fear of knowing?
Do you spell?
Yes.
They are all prostitutes, most of them, my colleagues. To some degree, myself. You have to be a prostitute to get money for your research. You're trained a little bit to be a prostitute. But some go all the way. Go all the way. Go all the way. Go all the way. Prostitute, prostitute, prostitute.
Statistics are growing, all except for one. That's the amount of people cured and still.
There's this old queen at the bar and two really drunk guys smoking a cigarette, laying on the bar and playing Judy Garland records. I knew it was safe, right? But it wasn't for me. And they gave me the lowdown on Colby's after I had my 14th beer, I think, that night. And there was a show upstairs with a black drag queen. No way. I was wondering, why are all these guys interested in a man in a dress? I came here to see guys. And I think it could have even have been Chris Edwards or something, and I couldn't understand the entertainment. I was a little icked out, you know? I didn't know that Badlands was downstairs at Colby's, which was my first experience watching guys in wigs. What's that? I mean, hideous mops on their heads. And I've never even seen line dancing, never mind this. And I was like, what is this? Here I am wasted. And this guy saunters up and he starts telling me that he plays jazz piano in some place downtown in Yorkville. And he's uglier than sin. But no matter, you know, we went upstairs. And I felt like one of the cool kids because we started dissing everyone's outfits. And I've never been included in excluding others before. And here I was, this young, hot boy kid in my 20s. So I go to the bathroom and there's this guy and he spoke to me and he said to me, hey man, are you gonna go home with that guy? And I told him, hey, you know, listen, I'll give you my number in case something happens to me, but yeah, I'm gonna go home with that guy. Sometimes in our lives there are people that show up as angels. They warn us, and they are there to be a sign. We live in a city. Pay attention. And I went to this place in Yorkville with this guy, and he had a key and opened up this club, and he had this teeny tiny needle dick. And I'd never had sex before, and here's where it all went bad. And I was like, okay, whatever happens, happens. Okay, whatever happens, goes on, that's all right. Okay, we're done. Okay, we're done? But when things finished, he literally went really guyish, and he pulled out before he came, and he put his pants on. And I didn't have any money, and he didn't have any money for me to get home, and I walked all the way home from Yonge and Bloor to my bachelor apartment at Queen and Roncesvalles. I cried the whole way because I felt like the wife who'd, you know, been the trick, who'd been fucked and left on the street, and my ass was killing the whole way home. The next time I went to Colby's, I ran into that guy from the bathroom. His name was Alex. So he's like, I hope you never went home with that guy and slept with him, because he's HIV positive. I literally was so scared about going into that scene, and what is that? HIV what? And I was drunk. This guy Alex knew what I didn't know and what I had picked up, and nobody knew, and I was gay, and I took a test, and it took 6 weeks to get the results. And in the meantime, I developed thrush. My throat was really weird. I sweated so much at night. It was crazy. And I got, like, really skinny. I lost 20 pounds. And it was the summertime, and I was working at the Mango, and I basically brought on all the symptoms of HIV, like a hysterical pregnancy, almost like in the play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And interestingly, I thought I was seroconverting, going from negative to positive. And my friend at the time, she thought the same thing was happening to her. Wow. We were having this isolated experience together. I got all the full-on symptoms and I tested negative. And I made myself, let me tell you, I was so scared. I laid there in a night sweat thinking, I can't tell anyone. Nobody has to know about this. And I thought, God, if I get out of this, I will change the way I have sex and the way that I live forever, please. At the most darkest, desperate moments, we as humans make a promise to learn from a situation. Can you remember bargaining with fate in the dark? I never needed a condom in my first long-term relationship. I became a bottom. Here is a statement that the average person, as you know him or her, probably can't decipher. The average person may become lactose intolerant, vegan, or environmentally conscious. Do you remember when you were recognized deep into your being, deep, that you were a bottom or a top and felt that you had carved out a place for yourself, and maybe some of it was sexual for a period of time and some of it was categorized sometime in the future because of some comment overheard or in a phrase you read, and you know what? That was okay for you. Okay for now. And for me, it was more experimental, but you know what? It was their responsibility, the tops. You guys, the tops, it was your responsibility to use a condom, okay? There are a few times I didn't use it, but mostly I did. It was terrifying for me, and I really needed to find out more. I went to the Hassle-Free Clinic, the anonymous testing site for gay men, and they had hours specifically for gay men and hours specifically for gay women, which is free to go to. And it's, Wellesley, and you go up to the second floor, and there's no appointment needed. They do free counseling, and my counselor was this kind of creepy guy giving me facts, and the whole thing was annoying because here I was, already feeling somewhat uncomfortable with my sexuality, and then to sit across from someone who was, and man, I was hating the whole experience. My first impression was, look at this disgusting place full of posters. And I remember a specific ACT poster with an erect cock and a condom on it, because it was about getting it hard and putting it on. And during the early 80s, man, you just didn't see that. And it felt like death. Here I am because I can't go to my own family doctor. And I think it was terrible then because people died so quickly. And what I did and what I lived with was a constant, oh my God, I got out, I got loaded, I tried to crack this code, and now I'm fucked, and it's over. And yeah, okay, I'll have to face it, I'll have to do it, I can do it. So I did a lot of therapy about this. And just after I discovered I was negative, I connected with my mother, and I talked with her. It's never easy, right? The mother. And she told me about my cousin, and I heard the way she talked about him. And it was her sister's son who came from Vancouver, and he came to Toronto because he got HIV, and he moved in with his lover, and the whole story was that he was living in Vaseline Towers with his lover and his purse, and then in the end, when he died, my aunt wouldn't let my mom see him. No way. All I knew was that it was a gay thing. It wasn't for junkies, this disease, it was a gay thing. It was like, straight people didn't get it. It's like people saying to you, here are these odds, and that's how that worked for you. Right here, I feel something lingering about biases. Biases with a capital B, conclusions, because here's a choice. There's a choice. you made it. Because the choice you made is socially unacceptable. One you will therefore have to pay the price. Nobody gets out alive. My 10-year relationship with a man was anything but easy. But I was shown an example, you know. I thought it would make me stronger, and Mark LeDuc, you know, he made it okay to be out. Here's this guy, he validated being gay because he was a boxer. And you know, he could drink with my parents, and he was like a butch male, and I allowed him to take control, and I gave him all the power in the relationship slowly over time. And he'd come home late, and I'd catch him in bed with a stripper from Remington's, and he'd deny it. What are you talking about? He posed that statement flat out in denial. You know how crazy that was? I'm telling you, man, 5 years in after he won the silver medal and then he came back, that's when he started cheating on me. I was devastated, and I felt like my life was over, and for me, it was easy to make him the bad guy. And I'd want to show him how bad it was. And I think he cheated every time he went out. And even though we stopped using condoms after 2 or 3 years, because you know what? It was established a trust, right? I met him before the Olympics. He was a top, and we were a perfect fit. And I know now that I saw these problems coming. Yeah, I chose to turn a blind eye. I chose to be safe rather than confront him. What would you do? If I introduced condoms, that would have been a huge fight between us. Mark really wanted a committed relationship, and I knew that those relationships existed in the gay community, but that wasn't the norm. I was ashamed that he cheated on me. He spent 6 years in prison for armed robbery, and during that time, his father never called him once. Man, he could win an Olympic medal, but he needed sex to validate himself. As for me cheating, all right, maybe I had sex twice outside of the relationship. I did it deliberately to get back at him, and I felt deliciously better, but I was petrified that he would catch me. He'd piss circles around me when we go to cruise, you know. Mark would walk up to anyone who would approach me, I'm telling you. One thing I was sure about every day, that he has a huge problem. I know it was insanity, me staying in the relationship, and I knew I needed to get out, and I didn't have enough guts. And one night, he came home at 5 a.m. and wanted to have sex. And I said no. And he threw me out in my underwear. And 4 days later, he was begging me to come back. Do you know, it was the hardest thing I ever did. I stayed with my friend Sandra. I got my first dose of homophobia. Let me tell you, I called the police to go back. I called the cops to collect my personal effects. And it was this Irish cop and a red-headed woman. And you know, when they came to the door, they assumed I was having a fight with a woman. And I knew the moment they were standing there that they were not on my side. They just saw two gay men having a fight. And then they said, you've got 2 minutes to get as much of your stuff out of here because we're not about to babysit you. And then the male cop pointed to the wall and he went, what? Look at that. What is that on the wall? Mark LeDuc, this is a medal? Oh my God, are you that championship? The boxer, you're the Olympic, you're the this guy is a champion. Mark LeDuc, and they had a love fest with him. I was aware, man. That was it. That was the lowest. There were problems, and I could not believe it. I got out. 10 years, and I got out. I got tested for AIDS every 6 months when I was with him. And he got a job at PWA in the community liaison. And they make you do a test, you know, because it's all about good practice. And if you got HIV back then, you needed drugs. And right now it's $10,000, unless you got Trillium, and then you need to pay. People got coverage if they were already on Trillium, and he lost his job there. So I got a job as a development officer, and, you know, everybody assumed I was HIV positive because I was in the biz. I was fine with that assumption, you know. I was doing my deed. I was crafting HIV messages. And then I won an award for creating an AIDS poster. Yeah. I apologize, you know, because, like, what kind of question do you ask somebody? Do you know if you're exposed to HIV? Do you know what you might be doing to me? I really need some safety and love more than my own health. And I'm willing to take some degree of risk for that. Everyone assumed I was HIV positive because I worked at PWA. And you know what? AIDS doesn't theoretically exist. You contract the HIV. It's a state that your body has. HIV, it creates the attack on your immune system, and it gives you the qualification for getting AIDS. You got CV4 and CV8 counts and viral loads. Below detectable is 300 to 800, so that's the measurement that detects that you have AIDS. There's all these logistics, but we try to name it something, and there's all these factors, but they're never discussed. Who wants to talk serial converting, right? I had a date, and I did blow, right? That night I had a date. Why not? I was sick. I knew I shouldn't be giving the blowjob to this guy, right? Because I had a feeling. We're all in a situation, and sometimes we know. We know we're not making the best decision, right? But we go ahead, and this is how many of us learn and understand that it's not necessarily avoidable. If our temperament is to be impulsive, right? That's your personality. What else is there to do? So I graphed my percentage of CV counts in Excel and the percentage of virus versus a healthy immune blood count. And I personally chose an HIV doctor because he's heavily involved in all the HIV research. So when I got infected, he said, I know you trusted Mark, and so many people say that someone I loved gave me AIDS. But now you have a partner who wants to help you look after your health. But how do I go into a relationship protecting my partner from getting it? And my doctor said, I know this is better than you being single because your partner cares about you. He said I was serial converting and you needed to see me, and he told me I had full-blown AIDS. And if my viral load is really high, I won't have an immune system, and right now it's too risky to get put on meds. The meds back then, AZT, the orange pill from Abbott. The theory was HAART, hit often, hit early. It was to destroy the disease, as it was enough to hit and knock it down for the virus to stop it from continuing, but not only can it kill HIV, it can kill your body at the same time. If you started when you're sick, you'll die. You are so sick, and if someone sneezed on you and you got pneumonia, your body has nothing to fight it. You die. The pills will kill me, right? But I took the orange and yellow Abbott pill and the other Abbott pill twice in the morning at lunch, and the orange pill made me Ralph, but in order to take it, I needed food. And there's this paradox, and I'm working in advertising at the time in PWA, and I'd get up at 4 a.m., I'd put toast in my stomach and throw it up and put toast in my stomach again, and I took 14 to 16 Arius, you know, those allergy pills, and I didn't tell anyone I was taking it. I was so ashamed that I couldn't go to my job in advertising, and I was terrified. I didn't tell anyone, nobody. It was a mistake, and it put me into a place of terror and fear. Man, I was in a situation that brought me back to that moment when I had my first scare, and I was still thinking, why am I killing myself? I look terrible. I want it to be my lesson that this is my thing. I want to be grateful and cry, but not bemoan it. And I was really clear that the best gift I ever got was maybe my HIV. And I had to stop being how I was being. And the way that I went to this lifestyle with clubs on the weekend, it would have killed me, you know? Leading that life, I go to my doctor. Hey, I just went to Fly, you know, only 3 nights out at Fly. Maybe I did a couple of E's, 2 bags of Coke. And he'd say, do something irresponsibly, responsibly. Well, he was a circuit queen at heart. My boss was very skeptical of industry and protection.
DuPont Pharma. AIDS is all over the entire planet. It affects straight people, men, women. It affects everyone who shares needles, men, women, straight or gay. Did I say it affects everybody, men, women, straight or gay, junkies? Why don't we focus on that? But what people hear often more than not, unfortunately, is that people get AIDS from doing yuck behavior. Needles, something deviant. And when Magic Johnson came out, and that was profound, man, because here's a straight dude, and the straight dude went, hey, 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 it's hopeful. And Erasure came out. I think it's hopeful when somebody who isn't gay comes out. What changed everything for me was my doctor, because he had some really good conversations with me, and he said, you don't have to be like this. We all have viruses living inside our bodies, and it's all a matter of when they get tripped. You don't have to die of this. You can live with this. It's like diabetes. And he's HIV positive, right? He knew. He's vocal at research conferences. He told me I need to think about giving back, doing research, something I was healthy, and giving back, and really, I would. And I believe I can, because I saw the people at PWA get rid of it. There are people who are anomalies, you know? It's not unusual, we just assume it's not impossible to beat it. The medical establishment doesn't want to look or acknowledge results from hope. You know why? Hope doesn't sell drugs. I don't know, I don't want to comment too much longer on Western medicine. I think it's just a right step that I shared my story. Thank you.